Well, hello and welcome to what is now round number 16 of the Nemesis Online Racing League Championship. And of course, it is myself, Niblo, here once again, who will be commentating for you today. And around the circuits, well, around the streets of Sochi, of course, where the 2014 Winter Olympic Games were held. The race is ran around here, and we're now ready to get underway. Hello, Addy. Good luck to you, mate. Of course, you're the man to beat at the moment. 3 wins in a row, and I'm sure you're going to be wanting to close that championship gap, as now you've moved yourself very quickly and very under the radar, within 13 points of Bolt in this championship, which we'll get to in just a few moments' time. We'll read through the championship standings as we now just waiting to load into our one-shot qualifying session here. And actually we'll do it now. So after 15 races, the championship order stands as is. We have Bolt TBD in the lead at the moment on 252 points. Then we have Ed on 246. Then Addy's in third, winning the last 3 races, as I just mentioned beforehand, on 239 points. Then we have Chazza quite a ways back on 139 points. Then Chiller Killer on 111. Ragnar on 103. Oh, sorry, on 108. Val, I believe that is, on 94. Murcielago on 65. Then Maverick on, sorry, my eyes aren't quite working properly, 53, and then Ayrton Spencer on 45. We'll just read through the top 10, as well, it's quite a bit of a strain on the eyes to read it off my phone, to be honest with you. But now we're just waiting for Ayrton Spencer, Murcielago and Ragnar to make their final selections in terms of what tyres and what setup they want to run in what is a very overcast Russian Grand Prix circuit at the moment, as they're underway, as they come through turn 1. Of course, it's not really a turn, but the kink at turn 1 is counted as a corner. But now, as the drivers head up to turn 2, a very difficult braking zone, it must be said, because it is so easy to just go over that exit curb on the left-hand side and cut the corner. Now through turn 3, flat out left-hand, and one of the best corners on this circuit as well on board here with Hereford, who just misses the apex of turn 4 there. And I wonder if he did get a penalty there for just going a little bit wide. As you can see, I think Hereford must be running a little bit of, or might not be running too much downforce, as he is going very wide into majority of corners, but he's doing a solid job at the moment, up in P6, as we'll go on board with our championship leader, and he is certainly struggling with a bit of understeer as he heads now onto the back straight. Then he will, in a moment's time, activate the DRS, and there we go. He activates the DRS, and he's currently behind his teammate Ayrton Spencer. And Bolt certainly not having the greatest qualifying at the moment. And we'll go on to board with the Mercedes of Maverick, who's had some very decent qualifying positions so far this season, but not able to quite convert it into good race finishes. And just as I was speaking about putting in good qualifying performances, he's made a big mistake there. He's found himself all the way down to P5. But now we'll go up to who is going to get pole position. We have Ed and Addy going toe for toe. Who's going to get pole? And it's going to be Addy by a whopping 0.6 of a second over Ed to take pole position here in Sochi. And the man who's on fire at the moment, Addy, takes pole. And there we go. As you can see, a very dominant pole by Addy. Fantastic lap. He's put himself in a very good position to win this race here today, as he takes pole by Ed by 0.6 of a second. Then in third we have Ayrton Spencer. In fourth we have Chiller Killer. Fifth is Hereford, who's put in one of his best qualifying performances of the season, without question. Then we have Bolt, our championship leader, all the way back in 6th. That's not what he wants. You have King No Skill in 7th, Doug Yaffman in 8th, Ragnar in 9th, Lola Power in 10th, Testamice in 11th, Liza the Greek in 12th, Murcielago in 13th, Schechter in 14th, Maverick in 15th, and Val last of all in 16th, who does serve a qualifying ban today. But Maverick, he was all the way up in P3, but he's actually been disqualified from the session for what one can presume would be a corner cutting offence. And that will, I'm sure the Brit will be very disappointed with that at the end of the day. As it is still very overcast here in Russia, so let's see if we're going to get any rain in this race. It's going to be very interesting if we do get some rain, because around, well, there's a lot of 90-degree corners on this track. It's going to be very interesting to see who's able to manage the rear tyres the best. And of course, around this track there isn't usually a lot of tyre wear, as we're now about to get underway for what of course is our formation lap. And now we're loading in, and here we go, underway for the formation lap, as we've as I've just noticed actually that Chazza is not here, of course. My teammate from last year's league. But Addy, really the main talking point is Addy. He's been on absolute tear since we come back from our winter, Christmas, New Year holiday. He's won the last 3 races, and he's going to try and make it 4 in a row. And if he does convert this into a win today, he could very easily be in the lead of the championship come race end. But of course, there's going to be a couple of people who want to stop him from that. Of course, we've got Ed in the Mercedes behind him in P2. He's been the main championship rival for Bolt all season long, and he'll be looking to capitalise, of course. Second place is not a bad position to be starting here at the Russian Grand Prix whatsoever. So, certainly going to make sure that Addy's going to certainly be very keen to keep Ed behind, but of course, with people who have nothing to lose, we're talking about Ayrton Spencer, of course his teammate and very good friend Bolt is in this championship battle, and of course is the championship leader. He has really nothing to lose in this race. Same goes for Chiller Killer and Hereford, and of course our championship leader at the moment, who unfortunately could not partake in last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix. It's Bolt. And because of that, now the championship battle is 13. There's a 13-point gap between the 3 drivers. And he'll be looking from P6. Certainly not a great qualifying by Bolt, but perhaps he was just going a little bit cautious, making sure he actually did not cut any corners. Just making sure he got the lap done. And P6 is certainly not the worst place to start, but he could put himself in a bit of trouble here with this poor qualifying performance, as we're now very nearly going to be underway. And here we go, the drivers just coming through the last sector now. We're on board with Val, who did have a good race last time out, but unfortunately a couple of mistakes cost him in the end, and he's ended up with the qualifying ban after rejoining the track in a dangerous fashion. And the Italian in the Alfa Romeo will be looking to make up ground in this race for sure, as now the drivers are nearly all lined up on the grid. And now indeed they are. And we're about to get underway here for the Russian Grand Prix, a crucial race in what could be a very close and epic title finish. And now, lights out and away we go. It looks like it's been a very, very good start for Ed in the Mercedes, who's already ahead of the Haas, and now the Haas driver of Addy is under pressure from the Alfa Romeo and the Renault behind it, column of Ayrton Spencer and Chiller Killer. But it looks like it's going to be Ed who takes the lead into turn 1, but Chiller Killer trying to get up past Addy. He just about can't quite manage it, but now he's going to have to go the long way around the outside through turn 3. But it looks like Addy is going to hold on as Ayrton Spencer might be actually trying to get past Chiller Killer, but he actually tries to overtake Addy, but he's not able to do so. And now Ayrton Spencer! Oh, I thought he tagged Addy for a second there. I think Addy might have had to avoid an incident. Oh, and we have a Williams there, and I believe a Haas of Schecterfart. There's been an incident in the back there, and we'll try and catch up with that, as we've got another Haas there. Bolt, I believe, running very, very wide. But Ayrton Spencer up in the P3 ahead of Chiller Killer, who had multiple attempts at overtaking Addy earlier on. But this has certainly been... Oh! And the championship leaders round! Bolt is it nearly reversed straight into the wall, and absolute chaos here at the moment. And he is down in P14. Disaster for Bolt. And that is certainly not what you want at all. I don't know if he's got any front wing damage, but the championship leader, after contact, I believe that was with Dougie Afroman. Absolute disaster there for Bolt. As now we're going to have to go a little bit further forward here, as we're on board here with Maverick, as we can see Laz the Greek almost pushing Murcielago through the corner, as you can see up ahead. And now King No Skill is going to try and get past Laz the Greek, and indeed he does. Up into P10 goes King No Skill, as we're going to see. Murcielago can perhaps make a move here on Testameister, but he can't quite. Now we're going to go further ahead once more, as the Haas of Addy is closed this gap to Ed. Of course, he had an absolute stinking and awful start, did Addy, in this race, as he was overtaken within about 20 metres by Ed at the start. But Ed, with a lock up there, looked like a rear lock up of the brakes. Ed actually seems to be struggling quite a bit here. It seems like Addy's got quite a strong pace compared to Ed here, and Ed is running wide and making plenty of mistakes. And also we have Ayrton Spinner, who's also over the rear of Addy here, so it looks like Ed is actually not going too well at this stage in the race. But now on lap 2, of course, we do not have the DRS activated, and as you can see, as a result, there's been no overtaking happening there, as there's a slight corner cut there from Ayrton Spinner in these early stages of the race. You cannot really afford those corner cuts, to be quite frank with you. And there's Addy going for quite an aggressive cutback there through the final corner, but unable to do anything with it, as they're now about to move on to lap 3 of 27 in this Russian Grand Prix. And now Ed sets a fast lap with a 1:37.6, and Laz the Greek already with a very early corner cutting penalty. But now, of course, the DRS is activated, and this could be absolutely massive in the battle for this lead, as also now Chillakiller snuck up to this battle as well. He is all over the back of Ayrton Spinner, and now they're going to head through turn 3 as Lyle and Ragnar are trading positions, as it looks like there's quite a bit of ghosting going on, as we also have a Red Bull there of, I believe, Murcielago now cutting the corner there at turn 2. And we have Bolt in the pit lane. So Bolt has made the decision to come into the pits, and I don't know if he's going to have to change front wings, but it looks like he's gone on to the medium compounded tyres. Bolt is going to go long in this race, get himself out of the traffic, and just try and go as fast as he possibly can. And I'm sure that on those compounded tyres, he can probably go to the end of the Grand Prix. But now rejoining the battle for the lead here between Addy and Ed. Addy gaining on Ed, but I don't think he's using too much of an ERS mode, so he won't be gaining too much. And it looks like another rear brake lock up there by Ed. As we're having a little bit of a battle here between Chillakiller and Ayrton Spinner. Looks like Chillakiller trying to get a move on Ayrton Spinner as he hits the rear end of him there, and now he's still got to try and get the overtake even though he's punted him wide. That is very unsportsmanlike by Chillakiller, in my opinion, and if I was Ayrton Spinner, I'd be absolutely fuming, because he's just been punted out the way and he's been re-overtaken, and now Ayrton Spinner looking to return the favour, giving absolutely no margin here, as it looks like Chillakiller, as a result, that has actually got some front wing damage. As now the two are headed side by side through turn 1, and now as they head down towards turn 2, it looks like Ayrton Spinner's got the greatest straight line speed, and he does indeed, of course, have the inside line, but he runs very wide then. He's just continued on and gone halfway through the bollard. I don't know if he's got any sort of time penalty, because, well, he really should, if it's quite honest, but he's maintained his position in the end ahead of Chillakiller. And there we go. But a little bit further back, it looks like we've had Laz the Greek and Murcielago trading positions, as Chillakiller has actually now just picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But Lolpower, geez, he's run a bit wide there through the middle part of this track, where of course it is absolutely filled with 90-degree corners. But now down the back straight we come once again It doesn't look like Addy is even attempting to overtake Ed here. He could be close enough if he did decide to turn up his ERS, but he's just looking to play it slow, save his tyres, save up his ERS, save some fuel, and let's see what happens. Perhaps towards the pit stops he might decide to unleash the full potential that he has in this car. As he downshifts accidentally there into second gear, it looks like. And now, this is certainly the closest Addy has been, is now he's going to chuck it up into overtake mode, and now he activates the DRS. He's in the slipstream of the Mercedes car. Can Addy put himself into the lead of the Russian Grand Prix? Ed isn't going to make it easy for him, as he's going to have to go around the outside here at turn 2, and Ed is going to cover off that move for sure. But now through turn 3, can Addy respond to this whatsoever? No, it doesn't look like he can, but he's got a terrific run here through turn 3. Is he going to chuck it up the inside of turn 4? No, he thinks the better of it, does Addy, as he's just going to save his ERS. As you can see, he's put it all the way up into using it, no ERS at all, and same for the Brit in front of him in the Mercedes, using absolutely no ERS through this middle part of the track. But Addy's certainly looking the stronger driver of the two here so far. As King No Skill and Maverick have traded positions, as Addy nearly hits the rear end of Ed then. He's gotten away with that mistake, as he will actually pretty much gain all the time back up through the DRS being activated. And of course choosing to run no ERS, and so is Ed. So Ed clearly has caught on to the fact that Addy is not using any ERS, but massively important here already. Addy got a 3-second time penalty just then with his little slight corner cut. And that is going to be massive, of course, because a lot of these wins do depend on who has the less amount of penalties. And Addy, with already a 3-second time penalty, that is not what he's going to be wanting. And now, perhaps with that is going to spark Addy's aggression into play here. But it doesn't look like he's using too much ERS, as it looks like Ed actually isn't even using his ERS. So perhaps if Addy was a little bit more awake then, and a little bit more aggressive with the ERS usage, he could get here at Eddie's. He's got to try and go around the outside of turn 3 as the two nearly touch wheels here. Through turn 3 they do touch as they go through turn 3 at 250 kilometers an hour, and what a move up that is, up the inside by Addy. But Ed is coming back at him for turn 4. No! Addy into the lead of the Grand Prix with a fantastic move around the outside of turn 3, and then eventually up the inside of turn 4. And the man who has been in an absolute tear, winning the last 3 races of the row, is into the lead of the Grand Prix, and now it is Ed who is going to have to respond here. Because if I'm perfectly honest with you, Addy is looking very, very comfortable in these early stages of the race. And looks like he does have the pace advantage, but who knows? It looks like Ed has got a huge amount of pace in the straight line speed. He's looking to come back here on Addy down the inside at the end of the back straight, and it looks like he's just about going to get the car stopped. No, Addy just about holds on around the outside through that left-hander, and Addy somehow, after Ed went a little bit too deep at the end of the back straight, has gotten past, and look how much time he's just gained through that one corner. The gap is already over a second, and he will not have ERS as they come on to lap number 7 of 27. And that is a massive moment in this race, as now Addy can look to extend his advantage over Ed here, who I think quite clearly is running less downforce than Addy at the moment. As you can see, he's been struggling with some lockups, been struggling with the rear end a little bit. And Addy, with a 1.2 second lead here, is looking very good. Of course, it is early on, and with track extends like that, he's going to pick up some warnings in this race. So, I think Addy might have to rein in a bit of his aggression here through these mid and high speed corners. And of course, around this Russian Grand Prix circuit, it is very easy to track extend or to cut some corners, but you can see through this middle sector, Addy just able to carry so much more speed through the corners. He's pulled out a 3/10 gap just through that middle sector alone. And although Ed looks like he's got a better car in a straight line, there are a lot more corners through in this track than there are straights, and through this last sector here, it looks like Addy is going to gain quite a huge amount of time, as he did on the previous lap, and Ed just turning in a little slightly too early there. That certainly isn't going to help him. But as you can see, Ed just really struggling to get the car turned in, but he's done a much better job this lap. He's actually gaining a little bit here through the final sector, but Ed still doesn't look completely comfortable with his car, and a little bit of a mistake there through the final corner is going to be massive if this has gone to the straight. Oh, and what's happened? Have we got a virtual safety car? I believe we do have a virtual safety car. I'm not entirely sure what's happened, but now this is a massive disadvantage for Ed. Oh, we've actually got a full course safety car. It hasn't popped up on the bottom of the screen here, but we've got a full course safety car, and with Ayrton Spender, Dougie Afferman, and the rest of the grid coming in to the pit lane, except for Lower Power. I'm not entirely sure why he hasn't decided to pit, but Ed and Addy here could lose out massively, as they have to attain to a speed limit now. I'm not entirely sure the rest of the grid has to. They could lose out here, but who knows? Who knows? But a full course safety car, I'm not entirely sure. It is very annoying because it doesn't actually show up anymore with like yellow flags in the bottom, so I had no idea that a safety car was out. I'm like, why on earth have they slowed down? So we have a safety car. And one man that is actually going to disadvantage is Bolt, who's of course already pitted in this race to go onto the medium compounded tyres. But now he's going to pit onto the soft compounded tyres and look to go to the end on these compounded tyres. Sorry, onto the medium compounded tyres. I'm not sure what I'm saying there. But I wonder why we indeed have got a safety car, because it didn't look like we had any well, we haven't had any retirements, so not too sure why a safety car is being called, as Addy and Ed are going to come into the pit lane right now. And I would all assume that they're going to put on the yellow striped medium compound of tyre, and indeed they are, both the drivers. As they will still come out in the lead of the race. These two, well, the top two, will still come out in first and second place. And that actually might have been a smart call by Lower Power, because I'm not too sure if he was behind his teammate or not, and to come out or to go on another lap when all the drivers had to go at the same speed, he might actually gain some positions here, as he is as well going to come onto the medium compounded tyres. Is he going to gain any positions here? I'm not entirely sure what position he was in before the safety car came out, but he's going to come out in P10 is Lower Power, as I am just going to have a drink of water here, so just bear with me for about 15 seconds. And I now am indeed back as Hereford has somehow picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he also picked up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. So Hereford, I'm not entirely sure how he's done that, but he's had a bit of a mare, as he's now going to pit off of the hard compound tyres and put on the medium compounded tyres, and he's going to rejoin quite a ways behind, and it looks like the safety car might stay out another lap, as you can see, I believe that Ragno, Bolt, Val, Testameister, Schecterfer and Hereford are all miles off the safety car. As we can see, Hereford's only now coming into turn 3, and the rest of the drivers are in the final sector, so I would assume that the drivers are going to continue. Well, the safety car is going to continue on for another lap, and indeed it is. And as we can see here, we have Ed Wait, have I missed something? I don't know how that has happened, but Ed, through the pit stops, has come out ahead of Addy. I didn't even pay attention to that. I believe that it looks like Addy's actually got a new front wing during the pit stops. I think that's what have happened here. Let's see. As I'm just having a look back. Yeah, it looks like Addy might have got a new front wing, which I didn't even pay attention to there. So, as somehow drivers are picking up time penalties when they're underneath the safety car. So, I'm not entirely sure how drivers are picking up penalties, but actually, speaking of that, we're going to have a look at the race director now and see what penalties we're having. Addy's pit crew wasn't ready. Wow, that's quite astounding, to be perfectly honest with you. And still quite an annoying little glitch that does happen in this game. Right, well, we've had quite a few incidences throughout this race, as we have Ayrton Spinner with a 3-second time penalty. And just trying to have a look to see what sort of time penalties the leading drivers have. I know that Addy certainly has a 3-second time penalty. Indeed, there, Addy with a 3-second time penalty. He was held up for about 5 seconds. Well, that's unfortunate for Addy, as he's done a fantastic job to get himself into the lead of the race in the first place. Addy with another warning. So Addy has got quite a few warnings, and I don't believe I've seen Ed actually get a single warning so far, as we do indeed now have the safety car in this lap. So Addy is going to try absolutely everything he can to get back into the lead this race, which he did of course take from Ed, but was taken away from him by his pit crew not being ready for him coming into the pit lane. As Ed is now backing up the field, as we're about to get back underway here at the Russian Grand Prix, and Addy is just tapped the rear end there of Ed, and he's got a 5-second time penalty for a severe collision. It's just gone from bad to worse for Addy now, as we're back underway. And the Russian Grand Prix is now we start lap 11 out of 27. And now Addy, he's going to have to give it absolutely everything in these last 16-17 laps here if he wants to win this race, because that penalty is absolutely massive. The 3-second time penalty was already an issue, but now a 5-second penalty, that's absolutely massive, and he's going to have to pull off an extremely incredible drive here to win this Grand Prix. As Dougie Afferman trying to have a look at Ayrton Spinner, nearly hits the rear end of him. Chillikilla is not quite able to capitalise, as we have Maverick and Lazar here going side by side. It looked like the Williams driver just completely turned it on Mercedes then, and he's nearly squeezing the Mercedes driver into the wall, as Lazar is now up into 6th place ahead of the Mercedes driver. Murcielago, I believe, has stayed ahead of King No Skill there. Oh, as Lyle Power nearly went into the back of his teammate there, as things are getting really feisty and tasty between the drivers, as now Chillikilla has got himself up past Dougie Afferman into P5, as Lola Power and King No Skill are, well, best described inside of each other, as the ghosting system isn't quite working, as Lola Power's ghost car, it looks like Lola Power's lagging really all over the place, as Maverick looks like he's got up past, yes, Maverick up past Lazar into P6, as things are getting really feisty between these two drivers, and somehow Lazar doesn't quite hit the wall there, and it looks like with a fantastic switchback has gone past Maverick up into P6, and indeed as now Murcielago ran a little bit wide, and he has a Racing Point up the inside of him, who's absolutely lagging more than what Murcielago would lag. Yes, Lower Power is lagging an absolute storm, and as a driver I'd be absolutely terrified of what's going on. But now it looks like Maverick gonna get past. Oh, that is an absolutely abysmal corner cut there by Lasser the Greek, and if he gets past here I'd be absolutely fuming, as it looks like he is going to get around the outside of turn 3 there. Fantastic move, but well, quite frankly aided with what was a massive massive corner cut. As now Bolt has moved himself up into P9 as Murcielago has ended up in the wall on the exit of turn 4 there. Don't know how that has happened, but I'm assuming it's because of some lag incident, as Val has nearly gone up the inside of absolutely everyone with about a 50-metre corner cut there. As King No Skill has tried to go up the inside of the corner, which you just do not try and overtake at. And now he is tipped the back of Ragno, and he's gone spinning around, and he has dropped down the field. As now, hopefully, for the driver, see that Lyle Powers has stopped lagging, as with that Ayrton Spenner being overtaken here by Chillikilla, and Chillikilla is now up into P3. And I'd also like to mention, I think that Addy did pick up another 3-second time penalty just a bit ago, and there we go, Bolt. I'm sure he's going to be very grateful for that. I think he's just been hit in the rear end there. Up into P8, past Lyle Power, and I think for Bolts, oh my lord, as Lyle Power has just absolutely destroyed Ragno. That's the only way that can be described. On my screen, Lyle Power has just absolutely come from 2 miles back and destroyed Ragno. And Ragno is now going to probably retire from this Grand Prix knowing what he's like. Because if I was Ragno, I'd be absolutely fuming. As Testameister is defending here from Hereford for P11, and he looks like he's just about managed to hold on, as Lyle Power has lost out here to Val, as Lyle Power's lagging an absolute storm, hitting the rear end of Val here. And there's nothing more terrifying as a league racer than a car lagging this much, because it's absolutely terrifying, because you could lag back and then boom, your tyres off. But for Bolts, for the championship leader, he's gotten past him, and he'll be very relieved with that. He's up in P7, and of course he was all the way down to 14th earlier on, as he didn't have exactly the greatest start. As I believe he had contact with Dougie Afferman, who's all the way up into P5. A very good race so far by Dougie Afferman, and he's looking pretty strong there in the Toro Rosso at the moment, as Addy and Ed have really pulled away from Chillikilla, and the gap's now 4 seconds to the driver behind Addy. Now Addy's just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, 1:36.3 I believe it was. And now Addy with the DRS, he's in overtake mode. Is he going to try and have a look here at Eddie up into turn 2? Oh, I thought he was going to do a little bit of a Daniel Ricciardo fake up the inside, but just due to the nature of how turn 2 is, he really could not. As they head now through turn 3, Addy really hasn't turned down his ERS whatsoever. He's looking to try and make a move at turn 4 perhaps, but unable to do so. Ed also defending with quite a bit of ERS. As now the drivers through this middle part of the sector where there are a lot of 90-degree corners will be trying to save that ERS, but Ed running wide through that corner, not what you want to be doing. As of course the closer Addy is to Ed, well, the better off it is for Addy. But Ed a little bit stronger here through the middle part of the lap, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like he's using a little bit more ERS. You can see he's pulling away mainly on traction, and the ERS of course is going to help with pulling away in those traction zones. As Dougie Afferman is only 0.7 of a second here behind Ayrton Spenner for P4. As Ayrton Spenner, well, with a big corner cut there, and he's got a 3-second time penalty for that. When I was looking at the penalties before, Ayrton Spenner did have a lot of them, so that is not very good. Oh, it's Chillikilla as I was looking at my monitor. Sorry, I was looking at my iPad to look at the chat just very briefly. Has gone crashing into the wall. I'm not entirely sure how he's done that. But Ayrton Spenner has also come to the pit lane. He's also lost his front wing. And he's been disqualified from the session for blocking the pit lane. As Chillikilla has now got a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. After he's crashed into the wall, there is one person who's going to be very happy after all this chaos, and that's Bolt. But now he has an Italian, a Val, all over the back of him here, down the main straight. Can Val make a move? No, he can't. That's. Oh my lord! As I think we might be under virtual safety car conditions. Or we might have been very briefly. Okay, but no, yeah, we were under a virtual safety car, and now we're back underway. It's very annoying because it doesn't pop up on the left-hand side of my monitor here, just above the F1 2019 logo. So we had no idea that we're under virtual safety car conditions. And Addy, once again, hitting the rear end of Ed, and now he has another 5-second time penalty. So Addy is raking up the penalties here, and that is very bad news for him. I'd write off the win for Addy at the moment, but who knows what can happen in this race. We're just about gone over halfway distance on lap 15 out of 27, and what will soon be lap 16 out of 27. But I tell you what, Bolt will be absolutely delighted that his teammate and Chiller Killer are gone from in front of him. From what was P6 all the way up into P4 now, Bolt is certainly in a good position. But Ed making quite a few mistakes on the last part of the lap here. He's going to be very vulnerable to Addy now, who's put up his DRS into overtake and has activated his DRS. Ed going to defend the inside very aggressively, but Addy is just going to absolutely fly past him into the lead of the Russian Grand Prix. Addy goes. Of course, on penalties, Ed is still going to be in the lead, but on track, Addy is now in the lead, and who knows, with, well, still well over 10 laps left, who knows, can Addy pull out, well, I think it'd have to be about a 10-second gap if he wanted to beat Ed here. And to be quite honest with you, the way that Addy has been driving, he's been picking up a lot of warnings, so, and he has a bit, I don't see that quite happening. I only see Addy picking up more penalties. And of course, I don't think we've seen Ed pick up a penalty yet. And as you can see, Addy, quite frankly, is all over the track. So I don't really see... Well, the only thing I see at the moment is a flying Mercedes coming towards the rear end of the Haas driver. And Ed, very sneakily indeed, covers off the inside line as soon as he got back ahead of the Haas driver. And now Ed is back into the lead of the Russian Grand Prix here. That's a fantastic move by Ed, of course, aided by the DRS and the ERS. But now Addy is going to be looking to get back past the Mercedes driver here, as he's now got, of course, the DRS and his ERS all the way up as high as he can possibly have here. Ed's going to defend the inside line. It's not as easy as what it was the previous lap for Addy. Tries to turn in, but of course Ed's Mercedes is there to block him. And Ed maintains the lead of this race for a moment, but decides to defend the inside line for the upcoming turn 4. And that's actually a very smart move there by Ed. But Addy actually goes miles off the circuit to try and gain an advantage. But Ed, with the inside line up into turn 5, just about stays ahead, as we have some yellow flags here up ahead, as we did just have Ragno retire from the race as he smashed into the wall there on the right hand side of screen. And I'm surprised that's actually not a safety car, as that is, well, just off the racing line. As Ed and Addy are really going at it here. On track. Was lap 17 out of 27, but Addy nowhere near getting close to Ed down this back straight. But Ed certainly in the stronger position here with the amount of penalties that Addy has, and I think for twice hitting the back of Ed, plus the time penalties he has. So it's going to have to be an absolute miracle for Addy to win what would be his 4th race in a row. And currently with Bolt all the way down in P4, I believe we would have a new championship leader if things stay like they do at the moment. I don't believe Bolt is gaining too much time on the Toro Rosso Dougie Afferman up in P3. But one man who's certainly staying with Bolt in the Renault is Maverick. He stayed within this 1 second window of the Renault driver for quite a number of laps now, and with his ERS all the way up into maximum mode, up into the 5th mode, he gained nearly a whole entire second down the main straight on Bolt there, but unable to get close enough to make a move. That's for sure. And Maverick is going to stay in P5 for the time being behind the Renault driver of Bolt, as Addy very actually close here through the early stages of the middle sector to Ed, but it's going to drop back a little bit. But it certainly is pretty evident from what I'm seeing here is that Ed is running a little bit less downforce than what Addy is, and in a straight line that's really helping Ed here, because anytime that Addy's been able to overtake him, Ed has just come straight back at him here on the back straight and managed to get back past. So Ed with the immediate response anytime that Addy's able to get past, and that must be very frustrating for Addy, because certainly in the early stages of the race in the first stint, it looks like Addy had the pace advantage over Ed, but I'm not too sure about now. That Addy still is all over the back. Well, I wouldn't say all over the back, but he's still within the 1 second window of the DRS here of Ed. He's really sticking, and of course with the DRS, of course, that does help massively, as you gain quite a lot of time here down the main straight, and of course when you get your double dosage of DRS down the back straight. Yep, but as we were saying before and was on board before, here we have the Mercedes driver Maverick trying to make a move on our championship leader, and he's going to absolutely fly past him down into turn 2, and he gets the move secured, does Maverick, up into P2, but Bolt is going to try and respond here. He's going to look for that move around the outside of turn 3, but covered off in the end by Maverick to make sure that he maintains that inside line for turn 4. He's gone very narrow there, and must be said, and nearly loses the rear end. Well, did lose the rear end, but nearly went into the wall, so the Mercedes driver can count himself lucky there to not end up going into the walls. We had Lazar the Greek retire from the session, and good to see him back after he's been off trying to do his best in PES Esports, and we all, of course, all wish him the very best in what he is doing on PES. But Bolt here, as we were just mentioning, he has been closing the gap a little bit to Dougie Aframan, who's currently in P3 here. But and so we're now about to head on to lap 20 here. A 4-second gap really isn't that much, and Bolt, he's going to have to put in a good performance out in these last couple of, the last 7-8 laps to get past Dougie Aframan. And he's going to have to worry about this man in the Mercedes behind him, Maverick. He's really putting a strong performance here at the Russian Grand Prix, and he seems to absolutely have an incredible car in a straight line, does Maverick. And as you can see, he gains so much time into the corners on Bolt, but as we've seen before, he wasn't able to quite hold on last time around, and now he's just going to have to work his way up to the back of the Renault ever so slowly again, and perhaps try it a second time to get past the Renault driver, who of course will be doing absolutely everything he can to make sure that he stays ahead. But now I just need to have a look at our championship standings here to see what exactly would happen if things stayed as they are on track. But Bolton's now closed that gap down to 3 seconds between himself and Dougie Aframan, so that's very key here. As Bolt, if he's able to get past Dougie Aframan, I'm sure he'll be very pleased after what has been quite a messy race, if I'm perfectly honest, by himself, and I'm sure he'll be the first person to say that as well. As I'm trying to actually find the championship standings, but they're not wanting to show. Okay, there we go. But Maverick has closed himself up to the back here of Bolt, and he's had some incredible straight line speed as he now puts all the way up into hot lap mode on the ERS, which of course isn't the optimum mode you want to be in your ERS once you're into 7th and 8th gear. But it doesn't look like the Mercedes driver cares about that, as he's absolutely stormed past the Renault, but can't quite get the car stopped. He's gone the wrong side of the bollard there, but he's let Bolt back through as he couldn't quite make the corner. But Maverick's got some insane straight line speed compared to the Renault driver there, and Maverick is has really put Bolt under pressure here. As Bolt is still continuing to close this gap to Dougie Afferman, and in terms of the bigger picture, in terms of the championship, I think that is the more important thing at the moment. But if Maverick is able to get past Bolt, I think Bolt will be rather fuming as he runs wide there, just before the back straight. But yeah, at the moment the gap between Ed and Bolt is only 6 points. So, and I don't know, I think that Bolt has won more races than Ed so far this season. No, I think no, they've actually won the exact same amount of races, but I do believe so, and Ed has more second place finishes. So I believe if Ed does stay in the lead of the Grand Prix, he's going to go into the lead of the World Drivers' Championship. As actually we're missing some action here between the two drivers, as it looks like Addy was trying to get past Ed here. But it really doesn't matter, if I'm perfectly honest, unless of course there is an incident, because Addy, with all of his time penalties, and isn't really going to be able to stay ahead of Ed here. Or he's tried to force Ed wide there, as Ed has just about managed to keep it out of the wall there on the left hand side. But now Addy finds himself ahead of Ed for the first time in some while in the Russian Grand Prix. It's Ed now is going to look to respond here. Down the back straight, loses the rear end, but managed to keep it straight. But now with the DRS, and he's going to put it up into overtake mode. Ed is going to come absolutely flying back here at the Haas driver. And can he make a move up into this right-hander? Oh, he's outbraked himself massively there. Just about got the car stopped. And with Addy having this many penalties, which I'm sure he actually won't be aware of, Ed really does need to take it careful here, because if he keeps it on track and keeps his nose clean, he will win this Grand Prix on penalties. And I'm sure Ed won't want to do that. I'm sure he'll want to win it on track, considering it is indeed his birthday. So of course, happy birthday to you, Ed. He's going to be looking to oh, so I've just noticed that Bolt did have like about a second gap there to Maverick, but Maverick's closed it right in here. Now this is certainly the closest that Maverick has been down the main straight to the Renault driver here. And now as he takes it up into 8th gear, the Mercedes driver Maverick gets past the championship leader, and he is up into 4th place, but now has a 3-second time penalty. But now can the Renault driver, who's got this awful sounding gearbox sound glitch, can he get past up into turn 4? He's going to have to go around the outside of the Mercedes driver. Has the Mercedes driver outbroken himself? Yes, he has, as the Renault driver is going to try to get back up the inside into turn 5. Yes, he can. Massive move there for Bolt, but Bolt runs very wide on the exit of turn 5, and the Mercedes driver is back ahead of him. Bolt there with a mistake, a very costly mistake, and now the Mercedes driver is back up into P4 there. Very, very good job by Maverick. He's managed to stay here with Bolt, and now with his superior straight line speed, he's managed to get ahead. But now it's Bolt's turn to use the DRS and the ERS, and can he get past the Mercedes driver down this back straight? He's gaining on the Mercedes driver. He's going to try and go up the inside, is Bolt. Can he get it done? No, the Mercedes driver of Maverick covers it off. And it looks like Maverick is going to maintain P4 for the time being. And this is a massive, massive battle here in the moment, in the championship here, because every single point counts here in this championship battle, which has been so closely contested between Ed, Addy and Bolt. As now Dougie Afferman picks up a 3-second time penalty. I'm not entirely sure of the penalty situation amongst these three drivers in 3rd, 4th and 5th. But all I know is that Bolt is gaining on the Mercedes driver Maverick here, but he looks like he's too far away. Oh, but the Mercedes driver's gone off track. He's outbroken himself, and he's got to move down back into P5, and that means Bolt is back up into P4 on lap 24 and 27. And so many mistakes coming out from these two drivers here, which is rare to see. Bolt usually such a consistent and clean driver. But Bolt won't care one bit. He's back up into P4. Now his main focus really needs to be on just driving as fast as he possibly can. And he needs to catch up to the back of Dougie Afferman here in third place and get past him to move further up. As Addy is still managed to stay ahead of Ed for the time being. As I've seen the gap rather close in as they're heading down the back straight, which is where Ed has been so strong in this Grand Prix. But Bolt has now closed this gap between himself and Dougie Afferman to to under 1.5 seconds here. And Bolt really does need to get past the Toro Rosso driver here. It's going to be such a key move, because if, as things stand, I believe that Bolt will be second in the championship, with Addy just behind him in third, and a new championship leader in Ed. But he's going to have to look behind him, as we've got the Mercedes driver once again activates his DRS eventually. Does Maverick, gaining once more down into turn 2, but looks like he's just going to be a little bit too far behind at the moment. And Maverick through turn 3, gaining and gaining, as now Bolt has gained within a second here. And well, I'm not a particularly big fan of that, if I'm perfectly honest. Dougie Afferman just completely moving out of the way for what I know is his in real life friend in Bolt. I get it if you're teammates, but I mean, it didn't need to make it oh so obvious. But Bolt up into P3, he didn't really have to do even anything to get past. But now Maverick is going to try and make sure that he can get that P3 in this Grand Prix, as he's now gaining on Bolt down this back straight, getting oh so much, but making sure he doesn't outbrake himself here, as we did have Lola Power being disqualified from the session for accumulating too many penalties. But now on what is the penultimate lap for the leaders, it's going to be super important to see now who comes out on top on this battle between Maverick and Bolt for P3 in this race. Of course, it is only 3 points, but this championship is oh so close, and every point does indeed count. But Maverick, holy moly, he's going at 340 kilometers an hour down the main straight, and he's once again back up past the Renault of Bolt, but he can't keep it quite on track. And it looks like he's going to allow Bolt to go past once again. Maverick just got so much straight line speed. He's literally a rocket ship going down that main straight, but just not able to keep it on track and get that final move sealed and done past Bolt. As they're heading through the middle sector now for what will be the second last time in this Grand Prix. Such a key part of the track is this middle sector, because of course the DRS line there to see whether or not the DRS detection point is just through that white line before. And if you're not within a second here, you're going to lose a lot of time down this back straight. As you can see, it's so key for Maverick, because he gains so much speed and so much time on the Renault driver in the slipstream. And it really is astonishing, as now we're on the final lap of the Grand Prix with Addy in the lead, followed by Ed. And then Bolt, who's not quite on the final lap yet, behind, followed very closely, I should add, by Maverick in P4. But of course, Addy is in the lead at the moment, but on penalties, he will probably finish in second place behind Ed. But Ed, very low on ERS compared to Addy. I've just seen that, so that's going to be very key. But now, flicking back towards Maverick and Bolt. Maverick trying to go around the outside, but just not going to be able to get that move done, as he didn't actually outbrake himself this time around, which is very good to see, as now they are on the final lap of this Grand Prix. As they head through turn 4. Bolt very smoothly through turn 4 indeed, manages to keep it on track and not go wide like he had done previously. So now things are very tense here, and Bolt cannot afford to make any mistakes whatsoever, as we just know how fast this Mercedes driver is on the main straight. As we've got a Mercedes, we've got a DNF car, a retired car of Murcielago, right in the middle of the circuit. We nearly seen our current championship leader go into the back of him. But here we go, Maverick for the final time is going to try and get past Bolt. Can he get it done? No, he's just a bit too far behind. But Addy is going to come across the finish line in first place. But on penalties, it's going to be the birthday boy. It's going to be Ed to win the Grand Prix. And what a fantastic display it's been once again by Ed in this Grand Prix here. I don't think he got any penalties whatsoever in this race. But at the moment, it's going to be Bolt to finish in P3. Yes, indeed. Bolt finishes in P3. Very key that he has done that. Maverick in P4. Dougie Afferman in P5. Val's going to, in the end, finish in P4. Wow. Due to penalties, Val has finished all the way up into P4. King No Skill in P8. As Testameister is now trundling across now the finish line into P9. Schechter is quite a ways behind, and so is Hereford, who are going to come across the finish line in P10 and P11 respectively, as Ed has come into the chat and saying, "Get in, you bleeping beauty." So Ed, on his birthday, into now the lead of the championship. Very delighted indeed with that result. Addy's saying that I got 10 seconds from Ed behind the safety car. He loves a brake test. Well, one thing's for sure, you got to remain vigilant behind the safety car, and it's always so easy to hit another driver behind the safety car. But we've also got Bolt and Schechter coming into the chat and saying Lola Power needs to be banned from the league, saying he has no respect for any other drivers. Well, from what I did indeed see, that Lola Power was actually lagging up an absolute storm. So I know, I think we'd have to see from his perspective a lot of the instance, because on my screen he was lagging absolutely everywhere. But now, as I think every single driver in this Grand Prix has got penalties, and there we go, every driver has got penalties indeed. But we'll go through the final classification one final time. We have Ed winning the Grand Prix, coming home in first place and now putting himself in the lead of the championship. We have Addy in second place, Bolt in third place, Val in fourth, Maverick in fifth, Chillerkill in sixth, Doug Afferman in seventh, King No Skill in eighth, Testameister in ninth, Hereford in 10th, Schechter in 11th, Murcielago 12th, Lazar the Greek in 13th, Ragnar in 14th, Lola Power in 15th, and then Ayrton Spencer, last of all, who was of course disqualified, to come home in 16th place. But that is going to be it for what has been a very interesting and very key Russian Grand Prix. We've seen now the championship. Well, we have a new championship leader in Ed. The first time that has happened in quite some time, that the championship leader has changed hands. And now next race up, I believe, is going to be Suzuka, of course, a classic racetrack in Japan. And I'm sure it's going to be another exciting and intriguing race this time next week. But that has been it tonight for the Russian Grand Prix coverage here for the Nemesis Online Racing League. And I hope you all have a very good night, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And for me, it's been Niboy331, and goodbye.